but I think it makes sense for Tony Stark to have done that.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just one of those things where, when I think if there was no internet, people would not really think about any of this stuff consciously. But then it's like a movie comes out and you get on the internet to read about it and you just see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people pointing out kind of like these stupid actions and decisions and why.
I can understand to an extent because I hate it when horror movies rely on people being idiots.
Yeah.
But I have yet to see in the MCU, I have yet to see a truly stupid decision that I can't come around on. It's mostly the DC, specifically those CW shows where
those are bad.
Anyways.
I'm glad I got out of that shit real. I was never really in it. I was like, it was just like, you have to watch Arrow. Manu Bennett is great, and I was just like, this show is fucking atrocious, and I barely made it through the second season.
I meant to talk to you about this like months ago, Matt, on one of these episodes, and I think I mentioned, hey, we need to talk about something, and we never got back to it. This is total sidebar. You can record this or you cannot. It doesn't matter.
I'm recording right now, just so you guys know.
I guess I'll start recording too. You dropped out of The Flash and basically the CW shows as a whole, like long ago.
Yeah.
Did you ever see how they paid off the Flash newspaper article about Flash disappears in Crisis that was there since like episode 1? Because they did pay that off.
No, I the last I remember about that was like the year changed, and it went earlier than what the original year was on episode 1 or whatever. But then I don't think I really got much further past any of that stuff.
So they did Crisis on Infinite Earths, and it was real bad. But despite the fact that newspaper article had clearly always shown like the main Barry Allen that we were following through, for like 8 years now.
Yeah.
A couple of Flashes show up during Crisis, and they decide that even though it says the Flash, it actually means a Flash, and so just a different Flash kills himself for the team.
Oh wow, that's real bad.
It was an interesting choice though. The '90s Flash, where the dad from this show, played the Flash, and Mark Hamill was the trickster. That's the Flash that killed himself. So they revisited
Jay Garrick or whatever.
No, this is Barry Allen.
Oh, because I'm thinking the Jay Garrick one was the one that.
Yeah. No,
was the actor who played the one in the original in the 90s.
Yeah, they killed the '90s live action Flash.
Oh well, that's something, I guess.
Anyways, I had been meaning to bring that up because it was so unsatisfying how they resolved that.
What's sad about those CW shows to me is I disagree with Ronan. I think season 2 of Arrow is awesome. And I think Manu Bennett as Deathstroke I think it went downhill after season 2, honestly. But I think the first couple seasons of Arrow and The Flash were really good. They were good. And then that relationship shit it fell off, and it fell off hard.
They both drop off after season 2.
Yeah, the real like a precipitous fall off of a cliff. It's not even like a slow downward slide. It is we're good, and then now we're not. And I don't know if that was new writers or what, but
so I watched all of Arrow, which was real tough, and then I think I watched until the end of season 7 of The Flash, and it got cut short because of COVID, and so the actual finale of that season was like the first 3 or 4 episodes of the following season. And so during that season, there was a new version of the Mirror Master, who is an awesome Flash villain.
Yeah.
And this was a female version of the Mirror Master who was trying to basically replace all of real people with mirror version clones. Regardless, her reasons and what she's doing don't matter. Barry and Iris go to her and talk to her about how strong their love is, and that convinces the Mirror Master to quit. And that's I was out. I couldn't do it anymore.
Oh God. Oh. It's the relationship stuff, man. You know, it's what's funny is, and again, we're getting off onto a tangent. Like, I am very anti like relationship sort of sex stuff in superheroes. In superhero stuff, I just hate it. Like, I don't want to see any of it, and I feel like anytime that stuff is put in to superhero stuff, it just makes it worse. And it just brings it all down, and that's all part of it. It's not like, hey, I need to see Oliver and Felicity bang. Yes, let's just be like, spread this out over 3 seasons of will they, won't they, and let me look into your eyes, and let's.
That was the overwhelming reason why I could never get into it, because that's such a strong aspect. But that is like a CW thing. It's like that, like, because they're like, that's like they're going for that kind of young adult teenage kind of market with that.
Yeah, and I understand that, and all I'm saying is, like, it is not benefit. I just want to see superheroes doing superhero shit against bad guys. And you brought up The Boys in the chat room. I tried watching that. Hard out. Like, I can't like I think in the first episode it's like, oh, the Aquaman one makes one of the new superhero girl like suck his dick or something, and there's a whole scene about that, and I'm like, I don't want to see anything like that. And I understand what The Boys is. The Boys is like, almost like a parody of comic books, and it's far more adult oriented, and it's hard R sort of stuff. For me personally,
I don't think it's a parody. It's just this is what would happen if people really got superpowers. They get all the real life human flaws, and you would you would get companies doing like that. That's the most true to form realistic thing of what would happen if superpower people existed. It would be The Boys. It would be terrifying. They wouldn't be like noble Superman. It would be it would be the Hitler regime. It would be awful.
Right, and I'm not disagreeing with that at all. I'm just saying, for me personally, and maybe I'm just a prude, or like an old conservative fuddy-duddy, like, I don't like that content in my superhero stuff. Just me personally, like, I don't want to see it. It gets back to that Suicide Squad cartoon that Steve recommended I watch, and I shut it off as soon as a whole scene with like Harley Quinn banging Deadshot. I'm like, I'm out.
I remember that one. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm out. Like, I don't want to see any of that shit with my superhero content. It's just, I have in my mind like what I like when it comes to superheroes, and that's not it. So all that stuff is always a hard out for me. And even like, obviously on CW, they're not showing necessarily graphic sex scenes or anything like that. It's still the same stupid garbage. All this love story bullshit, and I hate it. I just hate it. So I can't take it.
Is all this in the episode? Are we starting to?
We're just going into like a cold open.
Cold open. Welcome everyone to Two Matts, One Steve. I'm Matt. Down there in Tennessee is Matt/Ronan.
Hi, Frankie. Hi, everybody. My puppy just came in here, and it is storming cats. I don't know if you heard that blast of thunder like about 30 seconds ago, because it was loud as fuck. But yeah, that's what's going on. What's up?
Okay, and we got Steve.
Yep, I'm here again for some reason.
Yes. Now, this, ladies and gentlemen, is ostensibly our Moon Knight episode. We had recorded one a couple weeks back. Ronan fucked it all up, and so
Sony Computer Entertainment Corp fucked that up.
So basically, what happened is Steve and I, our great insight was recorded, but Ronan's was lost to the ether, and now we're going to try to re-record it. But if you listen to our Doctor Strange episode, that turned into a completely different sidebar about a million different discussions not related to Doctor Strange necessarily, which I think ended up being a better show. So there's not a whole lot to talk about with Moon Knight, so maybe we will discuss some random stuff on here on this episode. So Ronan, why don't you tell us what Moon Knight's all about?
So Moon Knight is a show in which Oscar Isaac and Oscar Isaac, they both wear white suits, and there's a floating bird skull that tells them to murder people, and one of them does, and the other Oscar is like, "Oh no, I don't want to murder people, mate." And then there's a crocodile.
Okay, that is way more in depth. Like, you did a better, funnier synopsis of it on that first show.
Everything you said was accurate, and yet you still told me nothing.
Steve, give us a little bit of backstory. What is Moon Knight all about?
Stephen Grant works at an Egyptian gift shop by day, and at night a split personality make. And he is the Moon Knight. He is a vigilante empowered by Khonshu, who is the Egyptian moon god of vengeance. He is fighting basically a cult that is trying to resurrect a different Egyptian god, which has a different idea of how the vengeance should be meted out. So it's really like a superhero and his villain fighting about how bad guys should be killed and in what quantity should they be killed.
Yes. So Khonshu, Mark Spector is kind of like his avatar. Khonshu just wants to kill people once they've done something bad. And then Amit and her avatar, which is played by Ethan Hawke as this cult leader, wants to do the Minority Report thing, where, hey, I know you're going to do this bad thing in the future, so I'm just going to kill you now, and we'll be done with it. We won't have to deal with it. So, just out of curiosity, and we didn't really go into this on the Lost episode of this, but which version do you prefer? Do you prefer Khonshu's way of going about it? Like, no, you got to actually do something bad, and then I'll kill you. Or do you prefer Meat, which is like, actually, you are going to do something bad. I'm going to kill you before it actually happens.
Well, it's Khonshu. That's the only way that makes sense. Punishment comes after the crime. Otherwise, like, well, I know you're going to do something wrong. It's like, well, you know, it's like that, like that's all under their logic, and that can change from person to person. And like I don't want the Egyptian crocodile god to be like, yeah, because you don't fit my very specific criteria, you will now be dealt with. No, punishment comes after the crime.
Steve?
I agree, and I think that if you had the power to see the future and you see that this person is going to murder someone, you find a way to get them to do something different. You'd say, hey, our psychic, our alligator psychic, said that 3 years from now you're going to murder this person. How about you stay away from that person? Hey, person that's potentially going to die, how about you stay away from this person that alligator god has predicted you kill? It's like something that they didn't really touch on in the show is if Amit sees the future and shows a crime that is supposed to happen, there was no discussion of, is that guaranteed, can it be stopped? And the fact that she has the ability to kill them would suggest that yes, that crime can be stopped. So why not do that?
What about for individuals who are clearly just evil, right? That are like, okay, you see the future, and I'm gonna murder somebody in the future, or I'm gonna do these things to children in the future. Okay, thanks for letting me know. And they're not gonna change. Like,
so
what would you do in that case?
Kill that person. I don't care. What we needed was a third Egyptian god who only killed people that were going to do bad things in the future, and they were irredeemable.
Okay, I could go with that. So, Ronan, your thoughts on Moon Knight as a whole? It was 6 episodes. Tell us, give us your review. What did you think of it?
Thought it was very I guess that was fine. Like, all of these Marvel shows so far have been at their worst it would probably be like Moon Knight, because that's the worst one I've seen so far, and it's not bad. I wanted to explain that. When I say worst, I mean like on a gradient scale, none of them go above the scale, but this one was the lowest of the tier. But they I didn't care about any of the personalities. I didn't really the story didn't catch me. I didn't care about the theme. I didn't care about anything in this show. There's the only episode where I was like, oh, this now we're getting somewhere, is the 5th episode where they're on the boat. That's it. Otherwise, yeah, I had So I had no strong connection to anything in this show.
Didn't you say you hated the hippo goddess?
I don't recall saying I hated the hippo
No,
goddess.
he hated the alligator goddess,
Oh, the alligator. Okay.
which is just a ridiculous position to have.
It is. It is pretty ridiculous. But that's his thing. He has ridiculous positions. We love him for it. Steve,
Even the right positions.
what did you think, Steve?
This is a show with a really strong middle, but it drops the ball on both ends. I was bored to death by the first episode. I was very glad that I chose to binge this rather than watch week to week because I was able to get that bad first episode taste out of my mouth. And then episodes 2, 3, 4, 5, I was into from start to finish. By the way, MCU, Marvel, Disney, 6 episodes is the magic number that you should stick to for the rest of these series. And then the final episode, I was ready for it. I was ready for something to happen. And then they basically skip the resolution so that they can save the twist for the stinger, which if you had paid any amount of attention to the show, you already knew what to expect. So I thought that was a complete waste.
I love this show. Thought it was fantastic. I don't disagree with your criticism of the finale. The Jake Lockley character, I wish we would actually seen him fuck everything up against Ethan Hawke and all of them. That would have been great. So I do agree that saving that for the stinger, which I think a lot of just normal people probably didn't even know, they didn't even sit through to watch a stinger in the middle of the end credits of this. But overall, like, I love this. I love ancient Egyptian stuff, so I was into it from the very beginning. I think Oscar Isaac was fantastic in these roles. He should get like an Emmy Award or something for this because playing these different dual roles I thought was great. I guess my main criticism of it is there wasn't enough actual Moon Knight. Like, you don't see Moon Knight very often in this show. There's a couple fight scenes here and there when he, go, and his costume's awesome. He just looks cool, and you see him like beat up some dudes. But the show was called Moon Knight, but it should have been like called, the Mark Spector show or Stephen Grant show or something, because we just don't get as much Moon Knight as I would have liked. But overall, I love this. This is probably what is my favorite of the MCU shows so far, without a doubt.
Well, thank you for coming to our Moon Knight discussion.
The end. Okay, so how do we want to frame this? Do any of you guys have a question about Moon Knight that you want to throw out there for us to discuss?
You mean like me or Steve?
Anybody?
Yeah, it sounded like you were talking to an audience that wasn't here.
And now we go to the live audience. Be sure to call in at I don't give a fuck.
Ronan, what would you like to talk? What would you like to discuss about Moon Knight? Is there anything that you watched in this that you thought would be an interesting conversation topic or something that could impact going forward the MCU or anything like that?
Not really, and that's another thing. Like, I don't want to say it's another thing. That's just like a little asterisk you can put on the show is that this show doesn't connect itself to the greater MCU in any way, shape, or form. And I do see that as a positive because that it's not tied down by anything. It can tell its own story, which it does. Even if it didn't connect with me, I'll give it props for that. Nothing else got in the way of this show's story. It wasn't like, the greatest sin most Marvel shows and even the TV shows have is their story is sacrificed to set up another story. And that does not happen to Moon Knight. It's telling its own thing. It's doing its own thing. It fucks it up by trying to make out like, the Jake Lockley thing. And I was
going to say it sacrifices its own story to tell its own future story.
It steps on the rake in front of it, Sideshow Bob style, of its own free will. Kevin Feige isn't making it do it to set up, the Avengers. No, it's not doing that. He Sideshow Bobs himself, for full willingness, and I can applaud that at the very least.
Okay, Steve, anything in this show that you felt was worth talking about?
The Egyptian gods were really dumb.
Yes.
Khonshu goes to them, and it's Khonshu. There is some context here. All the other gods have kind of written Khonshu off, and they think that he's lost it, he's crazy, he's out of his mind, etc., etc. But Khonshu goes to them and says, "Hey, this bad guy is trying to resurrect this evil god that is going to kill you all and just ruin and wreck everything." And the Egyptian gods, or their avatars rather, like they won't even like peek their head out the window and see that there's like an entire cult's worth of people digging in the desert for this express purpose. It seemed it did not paint them in a good light, to the point where when I saw that episode, I thought that these other gods have to be in on this. Like one of them at least has to be working with Amit, the evil alligator god, and then it turns out no, they just weren't willing to put in the minimum amount of effort to actually vet these claims.
I mean, if gods were real, I would assume that would be how they operate. Just, we're gods. We don't have to. I mean, we know better. You little, fuck off. I can imagine that would be how they operate. But at the same time, like it's done in such. If they had literally just said that, like, yeah, whatever, fuck you, we don't believe. No, but didn't they go through the extra step of bringing in Ethan Hawke to be like, so Ethan, what do you have to say for yourself? And he's like, nuh-uh, he's crazy. Like it's like they all come out dumber for that. We all come out dumber for Moon Knight.
So on our Doctor Strange episode, we discussed sort of how if superheroes do something stupid, quote unquote stupid, we can sort of chalk it up to, how their character has been established or how the rules of the universe have been established so it makes sense. So could you argue that it's not necessarily a criticism for what these Egyptian gods did for being stupid, because that's how it's been set up? There could be nobody more egotistical or I don't care, like I don't believe what you're saying, than a literal god. So can you criticize the decisions of the quote unquote bad guys or the gods in this instance when they're like, you're just little peons, right? We use avatars to talk through you. Well, like they're not even there. The gods themselves aren't even physically present. They're just talking through some other random human that they have on Earth. Can you really criticize the gods for being stupid in this case?
Yes, because they were dealing with another god. If it was, I think this would have maybe made like. You're saying that the gods are just treating humanity as beneath them. And that could be a valid explanation for this, but they weren't talking to humans. They were talking to Khonshu, one of their own. And if you want to argue that they just also didn't give a shit about Khonshu anymore,
well, they hated Khonshu. That was established. They didn't even like Khonshu.
But still, I think the difference between what we saw in Doctor Strange versus what we're seeing here is these avatars, these gods. They have a portal that apparently opened somewhere to allow Ethan Hawke to come in. They could have taken 5 seconds to stick their head out of it and see it.
True. Unless they were relegated to that pyramid or something, they couldn't leave. I don't know.
And if we're just going to buy the explanation that. I guess if we're just supposed to accept that the gods no longer care, they no longer want to be involved with humanity, and that's why they were dismissing this. I wanted to see more to support that, because how do I put this? I don't know that their motivations make any sense, because they're angry at Khonshu for basically. But then they're not willing to put any sort of effort into vetting these claims that would potentially resurrect a god that is damn sure going to make it known that the Egyptian gods are a thing. I don't know. the other gods didn't work for me.
So this brings up a sort of maybe an interesting segue here. If we were writing these sorts of shows, right? If Marvel hired us, and by the way, I'm just going to throw out there, I'm a little disappointed no one's mentioned my chocolate bunny that I have on the table for the past couple hours, which I think is fantastic.
See it.
You can't see it; it's right there.
Not from the angle that
Yeah,
the camera's at.
I can't zoom in on it.
Bastards.
Yeah, it's
So I have a chocolate bunny, and it's fantastic.
I'm sure it's totally awesome, even though it's not a Reese's bunny, and thus more inferior because it lacks the delicious peanut butter.
Well, here's the thing, though. To me, I love Reese's peanut butter cups. It's my favorite candy, easily my favorite candy. However, I have a problem. Again, we're getting off topic of Moon Knight.
Yeah, I thought you were about to get back into Moon Knight and the Egyptian gods.
I was,
no,
but now
it's candy hour.
Now it's candy hour. Now, see, my brain's going all over
your
the place.
whore mouth, Steve. Talking about Reese's peanut butter cups. This is important.
This
Matt,
is
please
important
continue.
because a standard original Reese's peanut butter cup has the perfect consistency of peanut butter to chocolate. Like the ratio is perfect. But anything else, like when they have these like Easter eggs and all these other sort of unique ones for the different holidays and stuff like that, when I try them, they're inferior to me because I think there's either too much peanut butter sometimes compared to the chocolate, or too much chocolate and not enough peanut butter. So I feel like the ratio is perfect with the original, and it ruins it if you go too high or too low with either of the ingredients. What do you say, sir?
100%
I'm supposed to be
agree.
the crazy one. I'm the only sane one here. Fuck
No,
y'all.
What?
original Reese's is best Reese's.
Yes.
No, the Easter egg ones are the best, or the bunnies,
No.
or the
No.
Halloween jack-o'-lanterns, or the
That's
Christmas
too much.
trees.
There's too much peanut butter, and I feel weird for saying that. But there's too much peanut butter.
The fact that you feel weird for saying it should tell you something right there.
No, it tells me that there's too much peanut butter. It doesn't have the perfect ratio.
I like how the cards that were laid out 4, 4, 8. I like that mathematically speaking.
Steve and I are
Okay,
right.
now it's math hour.
So yes,
the normal Reese's are the best Reese's. I will give the little mini cups I can also tolerate, but anything else is just it's a little chocolate shell and then like 16 times the peanut butter in the middle, and it's not good.
Yeah. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's not good. I would just say it's not the perfect ratio. Like I would always rather choose.
Now you're wrong too.
I would always go.
Everybody's wrong.
And here's
How
the other
about
thing.
that? Do you
Here's the other
feel
thing.
better now? We're all wrong.
Stick Reese's peanut butter cups in the freezer, get them ice cold, and it improves the way they taste.
No, what is wrong
Agreed.
with you?
What is wrong with you, Ronan? What is wrong with you?
I-
Alright,
only
I have an ace. I have an ace and another card that basically doesn't matter. Do I call this?
I
I'm
had an
not in
ace
this,
9
go
and I
for it.
folded.
It's all
Alright,
you and him.
fine,
Go for it,
Fine.
pussy.
Might have called that with the ace 9.
God, now what was I saying with?
Can we just
Moon
talk
Knight.
about Moon Knight?
Let's get back to Moon Knight. So, if you or I were writing this show, there are, and I think this even gets back to some stuff like in all Marvel movies, we write these things and we're like, make it smarter, right? How am I trying to explain this? Like, for example, with the gods here, you're like, this is stupid. They could have just put their head out the door of the pyramid, whatever, and seen all these people and trying to resuscitate Amit or whatever it may be. And as a writer, or someone just reviewing these scripts, right? Because there's eyeballs on all of these scripts. It's not just one writer and then boom, they do it. They have a committee. There's all kinds of people reading these. Kevin Feige reads these scripts, all the way up and down the chain. Is there not somebody anywhere in any of these movies or TV shows that says, that's dumb? Like, that's just bad writing. Like, obviously someone would do this in this situation. Why are we ignoring that? Or do you feel like they just write themselves into a corner and they just decide, fuck it, no one really cares all that much, and we're just going to try to get to the meat and potatoes of this. We're not going to worry about the little details of what someone would or would not do in a specific scenario. We're just going to roll with it. Steve might find it annoying, but who cares? The overall piece will be something entertaining, and that's sort of like their criteria.
I think that if someone with the Marvel stuff, when someone comes in with a dumb script, I don't think that the implication is, oh no, go back and rewrite that. This is shit. Give me something that works better. It's probably like, this is brilliant. The randos will love this. Brilliant. Promote this man. You're a producer now.
I don't know. I feel like most people give Kevin Feige a little bit more credit. He's like the mastermind behind all of this stuff, right? So I don't think that Kevin Feige just takes bad scripts and throws millions of dollars at them. Oh, nice.
Wow, Rona, that is.
I threw away a King 2.
I was chasing it straight and did not get it. I think it's more likely that they expect people to roll with it, and they recognize that things could be done better, but either for budgetary or time reasons, it just can't be done. Like, sacrifice. We know all about compromising from our film days.
Yeah.
I think the expectation is this: we get that this is a weak scene, but we've got to do it just to get to the next one.
Well, look. I mean, we talked about this on the Boba Fett episode. You know, that series is littered with stupid decisions, incredibly stupid decisions by the title character of the show himself. So, you know, and I remember when we were discussing it, I was shocked because I was like, oh, it's the same people who did Mandalorian. It's like, how could that be so good? But then you make this, and it's just constant stupid writing. Episode after episode after episode. Somebody had to have brought that up, right? Like, clearly somebody had to have said at some point in the creative process, I don't think Boba Fett would do something like that. Or if you want Boba Fett to do something like that, fans are really going to be angry if you portray the character this way. And so I just don't understand.
In the context of Star Wars, they don't care about that last one, because if they did, they wouldn't have done the new trilogy the way they did. So they clearly don't give a fuck about the whole. Fans will be angry if you have Luke Skywalker throw his lightsaber over his shoulder in a dismissive tone with comedic timing.
But yeah, but with this, I feel like it's a reset, right? So with Mandalorian, and even a couple episodes in Book of Boba Fett, they were giving people sort of what they wanted, right? And so I always felt they were going away from what they screwed up with, like trying to course correct their decision making in the sequel trilogy by fixing it in the television stuff. But then I was thrown for a loop because Book of Boba Fett, dumb shit happens constantly in that, and that fans do not like. So I mean,
and you still thought it was a good show.
I do. I think generally it's a good show. I think it could have been 1,000 times better. But, you know...
My opinions are wrong about Reese's.
It's not Reese's. It's Reese's.
I want to say that now that we're talking about Boba Fett again, in Doctor Strange 2, or the discussion that happened kind of parallel to Doctor Strange 2, I was willing to defend a character making a bad decision if that bad decision made sense for their character. I don't feel that any of the decisions that Boba Fett made sense for his character.
That is true. That is true. You also had no expectations of Boba Fett as a character going in, so for all you know, this is Boba Fett's character.
It could be.
So you should just defend it.
I know in the show and in the movies they at least claimed that he was this badass
Steve.
bounty hunter, and then I would not expect a badass bounty hunter to do what Boba Fett did in the series.
Yeah, I agree. And even though I like the show, I can't defend a lot of the decisions of the writing that was in it. I know if I was sitting in that writing room, I would be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you cannot do this. Like, you just cannot do this. None of it makes sense. And I think, you know, if the majority of the audience watches it and this can go for Moon Knight as well, if the majority of the audience watches it and says, that makes no sense, and it's something that comes to the forefront of their mind while they're watching it, that's what bad writing is. I think if you watch something and you don't really consciously understand or realize, oh yeah, that's a stupid decision, in the moment when you're watching it, I think that's different. It might still be bad writing, but it's not on the level of, hey, I'm actively watching this and I'm questioning everything I'm watching right now, because it takes you out of the movie when you question that. I need some water. Talk amongst yourselves.
I actually didn't hear anything Matt said because I was actually
I
poker
stopped.
game.
I stopped listening because it was about Boba Fett, and I tend to tune out for that part.
Boba Fett sucked. I will say, since this conversation got started with the courtroom, for lack of a better term, scene in Moon Knight, I would argue that was bad writing because these characters came across as so egregiously stupid to me that it made me think the show was going to go in a different direction than it actually did with these characters. Like, I was willing to get on board with them not doing anything, not putting the bare minimum effort into vetting these claims, if my initial thought was right and it turned out they were working with the bad guy. But when that didn't happen, I had to revert back to, wow, that was dumb, and I hated that.
Steve Grant's wife, what would she become at the end of it? She kind of just randomly becomes somebody's avatar. Is it the Hippo Goddess she becomes the avatar for,
Yes.
or is it a different god? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure why Hippo Goddess leads to gold eagle wings, though.
Yes. I mean,
They actually should have turned into a hippo.
Yeah. Right.
That'd be great.
A hippo suit.
I mean, a hippo suit wouldn't have been sexy, but I mean, hippos are fucking dangerous, man. They kill more people in Africa than pretty much any other big animal out there.
Hippos are awesome. Saying that for the record. Ronan, do you disagree?
They're they're dangerous. They're they're badass motherfuckers, man. It's like they check fucking crocodiles.
They do. One thing I will say,
maybe they should have done something with that.
Maybe. One thing I will say that I liked about Moon Knight quite a bit is, especially Episode 5. I think we all agree Episode 5 is the best of all of them, correct?
100%.
I really like the fact that this show kind of went into some dark places. It deals with child abuse, and I really like sort of like the backstory of Mark and Steven, where Mark basically took his little brother into a cave. There's like a flash flood, and his little brother dies, and then his mom blames him for it for like the rest of his life, and beats him, and that's how he creates the Steven persona. I thought that was awesome. I really like that this was a Disney Plus show that delved into something like that, because honestly, the last few Marvel projects, I feel like they're going into stuff that's a little more hard-edged, again, for MCU sort of stuff, like this child abuse storyline in Moon Knight. Doctor Strange was quite violent. We didn't even talk about the violence in our Doctor Strange re-recording, but it's quite violent compared to other MCU stuff. So I mean, I kind of like this direction. Do you guys feel like it's weird, because I'm at the top of this episode, it's like, I'm a prude. I don't want my comic book characters going into like sex stuff and stuff like that. But when it comes to violence and storylines like this, I'm more apt to be open to something like that, which is weird. I don't know why.
It's not weird. That is America. We are sexual prudes, but we love our fucking violence.
But do you like this direction that the MCU is going into? This sort of, for lack of a better term, more mature sort of storytelling, even though the caveat being it's not going to be like The Boys sort of graphic ever, but at least touching more on this kind of stuff.
I don't even know if it's true that they are doing that, because the TV shows that I have watched, none of those do, with the exception of Moon Knight. Of the movies that I have watched, only Doctor Strange really goes there. So,
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
sure,
Moon Knight and Doctor Strange are like the last two things that they've released, and I mean, there isn't a pattern yet. I guess we'll see what Thor: Love and Thunder is, but the Jane Foster character, in the comics, there's a fairly serious thing that happens to her, which causes her to become Thor. We're going to see what happens with Black Panther in Wakanda Forever. Are they going to address Chadwick Boseman's cancer death, for example, in that? So, I mean, we'll see, but it seems like at least they're starting to broach a direction of discussing a little bit more mature themes.
See, right now, I feel like Doc Strange 2 and Moon Knight are more one-offs. I'm happy to be proven wrong, and I'm happy to see more mature themes in the MCU. But if Love and Thunder is anything like Ragnarok, I can't see it being super dark. I also know that one of the upcoming Disney Plus shows is Ms. Marvel, and that just looks like a live-action cartoon to some extent.
Or She-Hulk. Yikes.
Yeah, and then the She-Hulk trailer.
Yeah, I take back anything I just said because I just remembered the She-Hulk trailer.
Yeah, I mean, you saw two things that happened. That I think you saw a coincidence and was like, "This is a trend." You put on your Rorschach mask, and you were just suddenly, you just went there. You went full Rorschach over nothing.
I did. I think I've already been proved wrong in the last 30 seconds. She-Hulk. Yikes.
Oof. I mean, I want to say you're going to force us to watch that, but at the same time, you're going to have to suffer through it too.
That's a good question. Do we watch She-Hulk? I'm
going to binge it.
You're going to binge it? It's 9 episodes.
It's
9 30-minute episodes. According to Wikipedia, it's like short episodes. So
okay.
I actually do like the She-Hulk character. I am not watching this week to week, but in I guess 3 months when the show is actually done, I will sit down one day and I will binge this, and I'm hoping to be surprised. But that trailer did not set the show up for success.
Yeah,
it's fully possible that just so happens to be a bad trailer where they conveniently picked all the worst aspects to focus on and to try and sell the show on, which is incredibly stupid. But I grant you it's possible, and then the show comes out and it's like, oh wow, this was, because the Doctor Strange 2 trailer is vastly different from what the movie is actually about. So it's possible. It's very possible, but it's probably not.
Well, I mean, the She-Hulk trailer, one of the big selling points is the sex stuff. I'm just like, no, I don't want this. And I understand it's part of She-Hulk's character. She-Hulk, even in the comics, was a very sort of liberated. I think it was the 70s is when She-Hulk originally came out, and it was sort of like the sexual revolution and stuff like that. There's a very famous sequence in the comic books where she literally takes all of her clothes off in front of the Avengers or something, and she's like, "This is me, deal with it," or something like that. So I understand that has always been part of her character, but again, I don't want to see it. I'm not interested in it. So I'm a prude, I guess, when it comes to comic book stuff. But yeah, She-Hulk looks rough, man. I don't know. I don't know. So back to Moon Knight. This episode, ladies and gentlemen, we're struggling to find stuff to talk about because I think it's okay. I think it's okay where we have episodes where we watch something that's there's just not a whole lot to talk about, because I don't think, even though I really loved Moon Knight, the television show, there are no deep questions or maybe even interesting questions to talk about. I mean, it was its own thing. It was a new hero being introduced. Let me ask you guys, going forward, how does Marvel utilize the Moon Knight character? Because I feel like, generally speaking, at least from what reactions I saw on the internet, is people liked the character of Moon Knight. I think people are interested in seeing the character of Moon Knight again in the future, but how does Marvel utilize them? Is there going to be another television show, another season? Are they going to bring him back in a movie? Ronan, how do you think they're going to do? Or are they just not going to bring him back at all? Or is this just we'll never hear from Moon Knight again, he'll just assuming he's in the background killing bad guys with Khonshu.
I doubt. I kind of doubt that like we never hear from him again. I don't know if they've like signed on for like a Moon Knight 2 show. Like what
As of
season
now,
deal?
no. They said there's no plans for a Moon Knight 2.
Yeah, so like it's possible. I think we touched upon this last time. Part of it is Oscar Isaac doesn't want to get Disney Plus or whatever. He doesn't want to get locked into one of these, another Disney long-term. You will make 4 movie appearances and 6 seasons of a TV show. He doesn't want to get locked into that. Fair enough. Hats off to him. So supposing that rumor is true, it's like maybe there is no more Moon Knight after that, and which would explain why they didn't tie it into the greater Marvel. Because I don't see how I don't see how he fits in with the grand scheme of things.
Now, as we discuss this, they have announced new season of Daredevil is coming out, or they're rebooting it, or whatever. Daredevil's coming back as a TV show. We do have, I guess, Blade, the movie, is coming out at some point. At least they announced. This October, they're doing a Halloween special that's going to introduce Werewolf by Night. Werewolf by Night was one of the big characters that Moon Knight originally fought. I would imagine we're going to see Moon Knight in this Werewolf by Night TV special that's coming out at some point. But I feel like what will end up happening is Moon Knight will come back, but I think he's going to come back primarily as part of another show that's going to be on Disney Plus. Whether it's been announced yet or not, I don't know. But some people think they're going to set up like the Dark Avengers or something for the Disney Plus stuff, and then the main event, or even West Coast Avengers. I've heard rumors that West Coast Avengers is going to be a thing, because Vision is still out there somewhere. We ever going to see Vision again? White Vision? He just kind of flew off. So there are characters that they could utilize for this sort of West Coast or Dark Avengers sort of thing. But Steve, what do you think they're going to do with Moon Knight? Do you think they should bring him back? Are you interested in seeing more Moon Knight? Or are you saying, I just want this one done and I'm fine that he's off in the background somewhere, never to be seen again doing shit?
I feel like what you're saying is correct. He'll come back as part of a different show. I kind of don't care if he comes back, though. I mean, like I said, this show had a good middle and ended really flat for me. What I want to see, though, is, so we've had the Norse gods, the Asgardians, now we've got the Egyptians. At this point, I have to assume that every pantheon of gods exists in the MCU, and I just want some big god battle. Introduce Hercules.
Can we get Hercules?
The Greek gods are in Thor: Love and Thunder because Russell Crowe is playing Zeus.
Good. I want all of that. I want some big Battle of the Pantheons event. And if Moon Knight shows up, that's fine, but, Khonshu will get the job done.
Well, something occurred to me, too. It's you kind of gonna need a second season of Moon Knight because of the way they end it, because they end it in that Steve Grant and what's the other guy's name?
Mark Spector.
Yeah, they both believe they have gotten out of the Khonshu contract. They believe they are not Moon Knight anymore, but yet there is the third personality that apparently still is under contract. That part makes no fucking sense to me. How a personality can have a contract. Well, that doesn't work because what's his name? The bookish one. He never made that deal. So it was and they should know that.
Well,
they just got stupider in my head.
I feel like they kind of hinted that Khonshu knew about all these multiple personalities the entire time.
Did you guys get that? As well.
Yeah, I feel like he knew about it, and he did not want Stephen Grant out because he could do stuff with Mark and he could do stuff with Jake. But when Stephen was in control, he couldn't do anything.
Yeah, really. That was my takeaway as well.
But so regardless of that, so two of the three personalities think that they're out of this deal. So you need a second season, or you need him to pop up in somebody else's show where he is a focal point so they can explain how it is that they're still doing Moon Knight stuff, even though they think they're not Moon Knight anymore.
Well, wouldn't it be cool if when next time we see Moon Knight, he's just a bad guy? What if they turn him into a bad guy? Because I think what would be cool is Moon Knight as a character. He's both a good guy and he could be a bad guy. So if they turn the Jake Lockley character into just a straight evil bad guy, like the Fist of Khonshu, he's just running around murdering people. You could make Moon Knight an antagonist in somebody else's show, because I would imagine, like, if they're bringing back Daredevil, it's only a matter of time until they bring back the Punisher and they bring back, introduce all these other sort of darker, harder edged characters. Let's make Moon Knight a bad guy, and then, like, the thing about it would be sort of Mark or Steven trying to get control back from this Jake Lockley character. I don't know. That could be a cool way for them to go.
I mean, that's the only real option I could think for him at this point, because again, 2 of the 3 think that they're out of this. So, like, have that last one be a villain. I guess you could make him into a villain, because otherwise you have to explain away why it is that, like, 2/3 of this equation aren't part of it anymore. Like you see, like they have to explain the personality part of it.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing about Moon Knight is they could, in theory, just keep adding personalities. It's not necessarily known that there's only 3. Like in the comic books, he has way more than that. So you could. One interesting thing about it, I guess, is Oscar Isaac could always come back in the future and literally play almost a different character every time he's playing Moon Knight, if that's how they wanted to write it. So, yeah, it's... I want to see the character again. I don't feel like you hire Oscar Isaac and then you never do anything with him again. It's just, what are they ultimately going to do with him? That'll be the question, I think.
Yes.
Pantheon battle.
Oh, that's what I was going to mention. The Pantheon stuff. So they were, because I read an article after Moon Knight ended, there were going to be references to the greater Marvel universe in this Moon Knight, particularly Gore the God Butcher, because in the new Thor, that's the villain. So Gore in the comic books literally is going around murdering every single god. That is his entire point. He's got like the Necro Sword. The Necro Sword was actually created by Null, who is like the god of the symbiotes, and so there's a whole thing there. But Gore the God Butcher is actually just murdering every god he can. And they were originally going to have...
better.
What's that?
Kratos did it better.
Yes, he is the Kratos of the Marvel Universe, essentially. So but I guess all the production schedules got jumbled up, so they didn't know what was actually going to come out first, or if Moon Knight would end up coming out after the new Thor movie. So they cut all that stuff out, because originally the Egyptian gods were going to be terrified. They didn't want to get involved in any of this shit in the Moon Knight show, because they didn't want to get on Gore's radar. They were off trying to just do their own thing and keep a low profile. So I would imagine, since the Greek gods are in the new Thor movie, that's going to play into it somehow. I think you will get Hercules. Surely they're going to have Hercules if they have Zeus and all that in there.
I want a Hercules Thor team up movie.
But it's going to be interesting to see how do they go, how in depth do they go into all of this god pantheon stuff. Are we going to see Gore just kill all of them in the new Thor movie, and then there are no sort of pantheons anymore, or what? But that was originally going to be in Moon Knight, is basically my point. The end.
Indeed.
The end.
So I don't know, guys. I don't really have much else to talk about with Moon Knight. It was a show. I really, really liked it, but unlike Doctor Strange 2, I don't have questions and interesting things to talk about, because again, it doesn't really connect to anything. It was its own thing, and that was it. So I guess stay tuned for Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have more to discuss when it comes to Obi-Wan
thanks
Kenobi.
Moon Knight for giving us so much to work with here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see, that leads more into me. Like, this show is very It's just so forgettable, and it's like even if you like it, you're just like, yeah, I mean, it was good, but I mean, I can't really say anything else outside of that. It's like, it's a dull fucking show.
I wouldn't call it dull because again, I really liked it. But it is interesting in that it doesn't really have. How do I say it? It doesn't have anything to jump off of, really. You know, when we're talking about, let's say, for example, Hawkeye. Well, Kingpin's in it, right? So we can jump off and like, oh shit, how are they going to set up Kingpin going on in the future, and what's going to happen with that?
And does Kingpin survive the show?
Yeah. I mean, we have things to discuss. When it comes to Falcon and Winter Soldier, it's like, oh shit, okay, Falcon is now Captain America in the cinematic universe, and what does that mean for everything going forward? So, like, it seems like all of these shows, like even WandaVision, oh shit, Wanda is now got the Darkhold. How that's going to lead into, Doctor Strange 2, and what's going to happen there. With Moon Knight, there's nothing to talk about. It's just kind of...
They told their story, and then they wrapped up their story.
Well, they kind of wrapped it up.
They wrapped up their story while stepping on a rake.
Yeah, the only thing left for them to talk about is the Stinger, and I didn't find the Stinger interesting enough to delve into.
I do think it was interesting that they showed him just straight up murder Ethan Hawke. I mean, you didn't see Ethan Hawke, but he pointed the gun at him and boom, shot him dead. And that's another... I guess I wouldn't have really thought that I'd see something like that from a quote-unquote hero in the MCU, just straight up murdering somebody. And obviously Jake Lockley is supposed to be that kind of persona, but you're still talking about a superhero in a way. And, having kids watching this, and he just fucking took a gun and shot that guy dead. It's a little edgier than our normal stuff that we're used to. Normally, when there's guns involved, it's alien technology or it's random bad guys in the background that you don't really see what actually happens to them in a real meaningful way. But this, it's a little hard edge. I think that's why I appreciated the show so much. I love the Egyptian sort of iconography. I love the idea that they're bringing in like these gods and the pantheons, and that there's avatars. So in theory, if all the other pantheonic gods, for lack of a better term, can do like avatars, like for example the Greek gods. The Greek gods have their own heroes and stuff, but can they find an avatar, and can you have a brand new superhero be created, sort of like what the Egyptian gods did with Moon Knight? And I don't even know if they named the Layla's superhero persona, but you could have like an unlimited amount of new superheroes, right? Or is it only the Egyptian gods that can do this with avatars?
It seems like, I mean, we're very limited in what pantheons we've seen. But just, I'm applying comic book knowledge here, but it seems like all of the other pantheons tend to handle things themselves. They will, physically go to the earth and do things like Thor, like Hercules, Zeus, Odin. Like, they have the ability to physically interact with Earth. And now that I think about it, it didn't really explain why the Egyptians couldn't. Like, Khonshu is walking around, but only people connected to him to see him, and he can only, make, the wind blow. If he really exerts himself, he can affect the world around him, but he's not like an actual physical presence in the world.
Because they say he needs his avatar to do really anything major, and they say that explicitly in the show, and that's how he can turn back the night sky, right? He has to have Steven help him do that. He can't just do it on his own.
Yeah, this seems like an unexplained limitation of the Egyptian gods.
Well, only certain people can see them, right? So at the end of the movie, when you have the giant crocodile and the giant dead bird fighting
which is amazing.
each other,
that's an awesome fight, by the way.
100%. That was great.
But when they're fighting, is that is that even a thing that people can see? Is that something that's going to pop up? Like, is Jonah Jameson going to start talking about that on the Daily Bugles? Yeah, it's like because somebody recorded this giant crocodile fighting this dead bird. Like, because,
yeah, that's a good point. I don't think they can see. I don't think they can see it, but they can see the avatars, I think, but I don't think they can see the gods themselves.
Yeah, because in the first episode, when he's being chased by, well, not being chased, but when he's starting to see Khonshu, and Khonshu is coming after him, which also I don't really think makes sense in the long run, because Khonshu doesn't want any part of him, but he needs Steven or something like that. I don't know. But
he's trying to get Mark back. So he has to basically, I think he's trying to scare Steven or something into him sort of going back to the Mark persona.
And when Steven falls asleep, how did he get teleported to wherever it is Ethan Hawke was? Because he fell asleep and then suddenly wakes up and there he is.
Moon Knight can fly.
Okay, so was that Steven doing that, or was that... Well, can he fly or can he glide?
I thought in the last episode
they show him flying in the last episode.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, but that's okay. That's just
totally destroyed Ronan's criticisms.
I know.
No, that wasn't a criticism. That was just me asking a question. It's like he falls asleep and then he wakes up there. But that's more of like the split personality stuff of me not liking it. How it just kind of jumps around from one part to the next part, and they like that was part of the stuff that I didn't like. That just kept me from getting into it because I just straight up didn't like that stuff. But okay. So if that was him flying, so it's like he becomes Moon Knight and has just enough like control of the body, lands and then loses control of it. Like what's the thing that suddenly starts to make him take control and lose control and not be able to handle that or whatever.
So Mark says that basically Mark and Steve lived separate lives. Mark knew, but Steve was completely unaware of everything going on until their mom died, and that had this, I guess, some psychological effect on Mark, where their personalities started overlapping, and Steve started basically being pulled into... Steve started coming out when he was not supposed to after their mom died.
Okay.
It's like you didn't even watch the show, Ronan.
Watch it closer, Ronan. Jeez, come on now.
Yeah, maybe if you got to go back and try again.
Yeah, you might like it better if you watch it.
I would rather jab a pen into my ass and scribble out a script for Moon Knight than go back and rewatch it. Fuck no.
Okay. I still like Moon Knight as a character. I think he's one of the most unique superheroes that the MCU's got going. I think it'll be a shame if they just didn't utilize him going forward, but I think it'll be more street level stuff. I think they're setting up some sort of weird... I think he'll show up in the Daredevil show eventually.
It seems so weird, though. Like, I feel like... I understand that Moon Knight, kind of has that feel of a street level character, but he just beat a god that was stealing people's souls. That seems way beyond what a street level character should be doing.
Well, yeah, he beat the avatar of the god, right? Because Khonshu, I'm trying to remember the very end of it. Doesn't Khonshu actually beat Amit, and then it's just Moon Knight that beats Ethan Hawke's character, like just the avatar?
I don't know.
Or am I thinking of that wrong?
I don't know. He looks like a street level hero, but it seems like, and we've only seen one adventure from him here, but it certainly feels like he's promoted himself above that. But whatever, we'll see.
And what's also interesting is I don't remember Moon Knight being able to fly in the comic books, because I think there's one of the things that the show didn't do well is what exactly is Moon Knight's power set. Is he really super powered? Where it's clear he's got some sort of super strength, but he throws his version of batarangs around with the moon things.
At one point, he pulls out a grappling hook. It was like one fight in one episode, and then you never see it again.
Yeah,
so he does have some gadgets.
because that's the Batman-esque part of him. He's got some gadgets that he uses, but how super powered is he? And I think the show did not do a great job of explaining what his power set is and what the limitations of his power set, because multiple times, Khonshu's like, will you protect the travelers of the night? We only ever see Moon Knight at night, right? Like, can Moon Knight in the MCU version, can Moon Knight manifest his powers in at the height of the day when the sun's out? Can he turn into Moon Knight, or is it only at nighttime that he can do anything?
That would have been a great thing for the show to tell us.
Yeah, that would have, wouldn't that have been neat if the show actually set things up?
Yeah, getting back to my point of they need to have people who read these things and point this kind of stuff out to them, because I think that would also be a really interesting component to a superhero who is only superhero for 12 hours of the day or something. Like, I literally cannot be a superhero during the day.
Dr. Midnight, and I feel like that exists somewhere.
Probably.
Are his powers also affected by the phases of the moon, or is that just something that I'm just kind of implanting in there because it's moon related?
That's another thing. Like, in the comic books, there was early on, I think the Moon Knight storylines, like when he first came out, his powers were supposed to be affected by the stages of the moon. So if it was a full moon, he was at his max power level. But if it was a new moon,
waxing gibbous moon, he was just fucked.
Yeah, like a new moon, for example, he's still super powered. He can still turn to Moon Knight, but he's not, for example, he might not have super strength. He can have super strength when it's a full moon, but not necessarily when it's a new moon. That kind of thing. But I think the comics kind of went away from that storyline. And again, I'm not a Moon Knight scholar or anything like that, but one of the interesting aspects about Moon Knight in the comic book version is he seems to... He doesn't have a set, like Spider-Man, right? When Spider-Man came out, he has his set powers. He's got his Spidey sense, he's got his web shooters, he's got his super strength. He can do all those things. His power set is defined at the very beginning. Moon Knight's has been all over the place. It seems like whatever new writer comes on to Moon Knight, they do these new things. Like, originally his personalities were not split personalities or dissociative disorder sort of personalities. They were just, hey, I'm going to be a cab driver and drive around so I can get some intel. So I'm going to pretend like acting. I'm going to act as these different people, and then it became
the Matches Malone identity of Batman.
Yes, yeah. And then it became some writer came in. It's actually far more interesting if it's like a multiple personality sort of thing, because it makes for more interesting stories. Which I agree, it does make for more interesting stories, and that's a cooler aspect. But I think his power set has never really been defined, if that makes sense. And the show didn't really define it that well either. With that, thanks for listening, everybody. There's to Two Mats, One Steve. We'll be back at some point, probably talking about Obi-Wan, because I know Ronan is really excited to watch Obi-Wan. And I think, guys, Obi-Wan the next Friday, where we're at now, it premieres next Friday, 2 episodes to start. So they're debuting 2 episodes, and Star Wars Celebration is next week as the premiere, which means they're announcing all of the new Star Wars content that's coming out. So there's going to be a ton of news to talk about. What?
It's the end of a recording session. You know what we have to do in this game.
Oh, yes. All right, guys. So we're going to end this by going all in. But we're not going to look at our cards. This is how we always end a recording session with 2 Mats, 1 Steve. I am not looking at my cards.
Oh, son of a bitch.
What did you do, Roy? Do we got to wait for the next hand?
I just went all in.
Okay, I'm going to go on.
It should come back around to me, and then I'll just go in then.
I'm going all in, ladies and gentlemen. You can watch this right now on the video. We're going to see what happens. Last recording session, Steve came out gangbusters.
I did, but I also lost all of that during the Doctor Strange episode that we just recorded.
Okay, we got another player going in. All right, there we go. Look at all that. Look at all these people going on. Yes.
Everybody.
Yes.
Look at everybody but
Everybody.
one. All but one person.
All right, Ronan. Let's see what happens.
Look at this. There's about 80,000 in the
Fives.
pot.
Oh, that's
Fives.
terrible. Terrible.
Ace 8, Jack 6.
Oh,
what do I
fuck
got? What do I
you.
got?
I used to need kings.
Shit.
Give me kings.
Give me queens. Give me queens.
King. King.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, this is looking good.
Oh,
Give me kings.
Oh, that's
King.
it.
I got a full house.
Unbelievable.
Full house.
I hate you.
Just like I planned it. I won all my money back that I lost during the last episode. Everything's great.
All right. Thanks again for listening, ladies and gentlemen. Leave a comment if you have some great insight into Moon Knight that we didn't. You can email us at outpostunknown@gmail.com and stay tuned. Next episode when we start talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi. And cut. Wow, I lost 20,000 there. But I still came out ahead on the night, I think.
Yep, I basically...
Okay.